It was supposed to be the happiest day of Emily Carter's life. The church bells rang with joy, the sun cast golden light across the small town, and guests filled every pew with excitement. The white roses lined the aisle, and at the altar stood Daniel Hayes, a young man with trembling hands and eyes shining with love. He had waited his whole life for this moment. But as the music swelled and the doors opened, Emily never appeared. Whispers filled the church. Murmurs turned to confusion. Minutes passed, then hours. Panic rose. The bride had vanished without a trace. Her dress, her bouquet, even her shoes she was supposed to wear were gone. No one saw her leave, no one heard a sound. One moment she was there, laughing with her bridesmaids, and the next, she was simply gone. Daniel's world shattered that day. What was supposed to be a celebration of love turned into a nightmare. He searched for her desperately, through the town, through the nearby woods, knocking on every door. The police investigated, but there was no sign of Emily. It was as though the earth had swallowed her whole. For 20 years, Daniel lived with the ache of unanswered questions, with the haunting image of her empty place at the altar. People whispered theories. She had cold feet and ran away, she had been kidnapped, she had a secret lover. But Daniel never believed any of them. He knew Emily loved him. Something had happened, something no one understood. Years passed. The world moved on, but Daniel never truly did. He grew older, lonelier, though he built a life, opened a small bookstore, and tried to smile again. But every time he passed the church, every time he heard wedding bells, the wound reopened. He never married. He could not. His heart belonged to Emily, wherever she was. Then, one stormy evening, 20 years to the day of their wedding, Daniel heard a knock at his door. He opened it slowly, expecting perhaps a lost traveler seeking shelter. But standing there, drenched in rain, trembling, was a woman with tired eyes and familiar features. It was Emily. For a moment, time stopped. Daniel felt his heart seize. She looked older, fragile, but it was her. Emily, the woman he had loved all his life. Daniel, she whispered, her voice breaking, I'm sorry, I never wanted to leave you. Daniel's hands shook as he reached for her. Emily, where have you been? What happened to you? And so, with tears streaming down her face, Emily began to tell the story that would break his heart all over again. On that morning of their wedding, Emily had received a letter slipped under her dressing room door. It was written in hurried handwriting, unsigned, but the words were clear: if you love Daniel, you cannot marry him. Meet me outside now, or he will die. Emily froze. At first, she thought it was a cruel prank. But then she saw the small photo attached. Daniel walking home the previous night, taken from the shadows. The message was real. Someone was watching them. Someone was threatening Daniel's life. Terrified and desperate to protect him, Emily slipped out quietly, clutching her dress to avoid making noise. She told no one, not even her closest friends. She thought she would meet the blackmailer, reason with them, and return before the ceremony began. But she never came back. Outside, in the back alley behind the church, a car waited. The door swung open, and before she could scream, strong arms pulled her inside. A cloth covered her mouth, and the world went dark. Emily awoke in a small, windowless room. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. She had been kidnapped. The man behind it all was someone she had once known. Her own uncle, Richard, a man who had always been quiet on the sidelines of family gatherings. He had gambled away his fortune, fallen into dangerous debts, and now believed he could save himself by destroying her happiness. He claimed Daniel's family had wronged him years ago, and this was his revenge. Emily begged, pleaded, cried, but Richard never let her go. He moved her constantly, from one hidden cabin to another, always in the shadows, always warning her that if she tried to escape, Daniel would be killed. She lived like a ghost, never knowing the time, never seeing the outside world. The years blurred together, each one stealing away her youth, her hope, her life. And then, 20 years later, Richard died suddenly of illness. In his final days, he grew weak and careless. For the first time, Emily found a chance to slip away. She ran barefoot through the night, through rain and darkness, until she found her way back to town. And that's when she knocked on Daniel's door. By the time Emily finished her story, Daniel was trembling. He held her close, but tears streamed down his face. The woman he had waited for was finally back, but 20 years had been stolen from them. 20 years of laughter, love, children, and dreams they would never live. Still, Daniel whispered, you came back to me. That's all that matters. But Emily shook her head. No, Daniel, I came back to tell you the truth, and to say goodbye. His heart stopped. Goodbye. What do you mean? Emily's hands trembled as she unbuttoned her sleeve. Beneath, her skin was bruised, fragile, and thin. When I was with him, I got sick. He never let me see a doctor. It's too late now. The doctors told me I don't have much time. I didn't want to die without you knowing the truth. Daniel felt the air leave his chest. His knees buckled. He had lost her once, and now he was losing her again. But this time, there was nothing he could do. In the weeks that followed, Daniel cared for Emily with all the love he had kept hidden in his heart for 2 decades. He read to her from his bookstore, cooked her favorite meals, and sat by her side every night. They laughed, they cried, they remembered what could have been. And though the time was short, it was real. One quiet morning, Emily whispered, "If there's another life after this one, I'll meet you there, Daniel. And this time, nothing will take me away." He held her hand tightly, tears streaming silently, until her grip slowly loosened. She was gone. Daniel buried her in the small town cemetery, beneath the old oak tree where they had first kissed as teenagers. On her gravestone, he carved the words, "Forever my bride, even if only for a moment." People came to the funeral, whispering the story of the bride who had disappeared and finally returned after 20 years. Some called it a tragedy, others called it fate. But Daniel knew the truth. It was love. A love so strong that even 20 years of darkness, pain, and loss could not destroy it. Every evening, Daniel sat by her grave, reading aloud from the books she once loved. And though the world moved on, he never did. Because for him, Emily was not just the girl who disappeared on her wedding day. She was the love of his life, the one he lost twice, but never stopped loving. And the town would never forget the story. A bride stolen on her wedding day. A groom who never gave up hope. And a heartbreaking truth that emerged only 20 years later.